Hi, I'm Anthony Kittle. I'm the Managing Director and owner of Redarc Electronics. We're based in Lonsdale, South Australia, and here at the SEMA show we've got Scott Brady from Overland Journal and Expedition Portal. Hi Scott.
Yeah, this is great to be here. I mean, it's been so fun. The last time that I saw you was in South Australia.
That's true, quite a few years ago.
That's right. We were getting ready to cross the Great Australian Bight, and that was actually my first opportunity to use your tow systems, which they were really impressive on the trail, for sure.
Thank you, yeah. And we're talking about the trails. Tell us about that sort of track and why a tow system's important.
Well, and it's interesting because Australia is such a massive country, and a lot of people don't know that, but so much of it is available for backcountry travel. And because it's so remote and the distances are so vast, a lot of people will tow a trailer with them. And that way you can maximize comfort, you can stay in one spot for weeks at a time, bring along enough food and water. And because of the size of the trailers, you really do need a good tow system, something that's tuned for off-road travel and then optimized for on-road travel as well. And that's one of the things that I found unique to the Redarc system is the off-road tuning that you guys have that has been refined through years and years of your engineering use.
That's true.
And then the other thing that I like is the form factor of the tow controller. One of the things that we don't like about most of the tow controllers on the market is that they're these massive kind of bricks that mount underneath the dash and hit your knees, and I'm a taller guy. So having this small little dash mounted tow controller that still has all of the interface that you need, but takes up a lot less space.
Yeah. I think what I'm most proud about is the fact that, as you say, those engineers are really fine-tuning that device, working on the algorithms that make that braking experience so smooth and so natural that you forget you're actually towing something behind you, which is really the ultimate, what we aim for.
It's very noticeable, and how well it incorporates with the vehicle as well. Just the way that you set up the tow controller, it really is optimized for off-road use.
Yeah. We haven't caught up for a while, so I'm really keen to understand, you're the number one influencer in this overland segment in the United States. And you've paved the way to this, where we stand today, this great hall full of overlanding companies. And I guess I'm trying to understand from the early days to where we are now, how you've seen things change. And I guess, how you see a company like Redarc in our evolution as well, in that whole life cycle journey.
Well, it's interesting, when we started working on all of this 20 years ago, we're coming up on our 20-year anniversary as a media company, there was a small group of people that were doing it back then, but we found that people resonated with it. People love travel, and people also love their vehicles. So we combined travel and vehicles together. Overlanding is not a new term, it's not anything that we invented, but it is something that we brought to market. So it is something that we helped to encourage the market to adopt, because we realized it was an opportunity to bring in families and to have a broader experience, and even an international experience for those that choose to do so. So in the beginning, it was very much this small group of international overlanders, but as it became more popular, more and more families got involved. And in my mind, you don't have an industry if you don't have families engaged. You need to have young people that are excited about it as well, and then they grow up and they get involved with it. So we need to have young families, we need to have diversity within the space. Those are all things that are very important for the success of any industry. So that is something that I'm most encouraged by, is the fact that not only has things grown so significantly, especially through COVID, but we're also seeing all of these families and all this diversity in the space. So that's a very encouraging thing. And then now what we're seeing, which is the most encouraging from just a business perspective, is the OEM adoption. So we're seeing companies like Toyota using the term overland to describe their vehicles. Companies like Jeep and GMC and Chevrolet that are making overland specific models that have the payload and that they have the capability and the size that we need to be able to go deep into the backcountry.
Yeah, great. And I guess, from the US term overlanding, and for Australians it's full driving in the outback.
That's right. And you guys have been doing it forever.
Yeah. How do you see that influence, that Australian influence in the US scene?
Well, there's no question that that the Australian companies were the forefathers of proper overland travel, even though a lot of times it was just called touring in four-wheel drive touring in Australia. It very much was every element of overland travel. So very remote, difficult tracks, conditions that are very difficult on the vehicle and on the equipment. And as a result of that, we saw the quality of products coming from Australia exceeding the standards that we saw from anywhere else in the world. Your conditions are so abusive that they have to work, or else you're going to leave these people stranded in the middle of the outback. So.
And I guess for the viewers, explain, you just mentioned to me a bit earlier about the distances of travel, Australia versus the US, and I guess those extremes.
Well, so as a great example, and you and I talked about this a little bit ago, but the longest unsupported overland track in the world, which is on a road, is in Australia, and it's called the Canning Stock Route, which you're very familiar with, and it's nearly 2,000 kilometers from point to point.
Miles, roughly?
So 1,200, 1,300 miles. So whereas in the United States, our longest point-to-point road is called El Camino del Diablo, the Road of the Devil. And it is a very rough track. It's very similar to the Canning Stock in the fact that it's in the desert, it's very remote, it's not a simple graded road, it's a difficult two-track in places, but it's only 156 miles.
Wow.
So we're talking about 10% of the length that you would experience in Australia. So Australians, because they go out for such long distances and longer periods of time, they need these very robust and integrated systems in their vehicles in order to support their travels.
So I guess that's where Redarc fits in with power.
No question.
And,
no question.
And solar and these sorts of things.
And that's where we've really seen Redarc evolve as well. We've seen Redarc take these robust systems, but then add a degree of refinement and integration and even some software now. So we're seeing a lot of intelligent control over these systems coming out of Redarc, which I think is a big benefit to the consumer, because a lot of consumers don't understand how 12-volt power works. So if you took the typical consumer and they took their battery down to 25%, they think they've got 25% left. No, they're well under 12 volts. And that's a bad thing for the battery, whereas your systems help the consumer understand that I am down at 12 volts, which is I'm basically at zero. So you guys have systems that really help the consumer make good choices when they're in the backcountry, and it also informs them. They can check on their phone or they can look on the display and see how those various power systems are performing, how much solar they're getting, how much time they have left. So those kinds of things are really important.
There's lots we can talk about. I guess there's two quick last things I wanted to cover off, and the first one is, what are you up to, and what's this next 12 months hold for you post-COVID? I think it's opening up, more travel.
Things are finally starting to open up. So for me, it was difficult. I mean, I even took up sailing for a while because it's the only place that you could really travel anywhere you wanted in the world and not worry about it. But now I'm able to look at big continent crossing expeditions again. So actually the last big continent crossing I did was in Australia. And now I'm getting ready to cross Africa. So look forward
tell
to
us
doing that.
Anything you can share?
Yeah, we'll start from Cape Town and we'll head up to Cairo, and we'll just enjoy ourselves along the way. There's a lot of dynamics in Africa right now, so the route will be somewhat fluid.
Variable, So, if there's anything that Redarc can do to help your adventure, and
you guys always have. I mean, we look forward. We have partners that have been with us through most of this journey, and Redarc is one of those. And the reason why we use your product is because it works for us. My life depends oftentimes on the quality of the products that I select. So we would use companies like Redarc for a big expedition like this because we really need to count on it.
Great.
We've only got one vehicle.
That's it.
So we need to be able to count on it.
And as we say back home, we want to get you there safely and bring you home safely.
There we go.
Both you and your family. So that's important. Last question. We're going through this fairly significant transition at the moment that none of us can talk really with great authority about the speed or the amount of change that's happening with, I guess I'm talking EV. what's your views on the uptake of EV and I guess where this next 10-year period goes for all of us?
Well, there are applications where the EV is the very best choice.
Sure.
And the only people who tend to disagree with that are ones that either don't financially benefit from it or haven't driven them.
Yes.
Right? So there are applications where EVs are perfect. And we're going to see rapid adoption in those spaces. There are going to be applications where internal combustion is going to be the choice for quite some time, and overlanding will be one of those things, especially long distance remote overland travel. There are going to be people who still want to travel in South America, and there's just not the infrastructure there yet for that kind of charging. In Australia, they'll do a good job of it. They'll build it out. In the US, they'll do a good job of it, and they'll build out that infrastructure. But there's still going to be places in the world where we want to go, where we still need to have diesel fuel.
Yeah. So I guess for our customers out there and our overland enthusiasts, I guess, will they be able to take their EV to do what they do now with their ICE vehicle?
They will be. In fact, we just talked about the El Camino Del Diablo, and we took a Hummer EV and we drove it the full length of El Camino Del Diablo without needing to charge, and we had plenty of range to spare. We were able to run the air conditioning and run the fridge and everything else the entire time. So the internal combustion vehicle is still better at certain things, but for most overland travel, I think EVs will be fine.
Yeah, great. Well, Redarc's doing a lot of thinking in this space, and I just say watch this space, and we'll talk about what we can come out with in the future.
Well, I can't wait to see what you come up with.
Great. Been great to chat with you, Scott.
Absolutely.
Good to see you again.
Yeah, you as well.